The rain had finally stopped, but the cold remained, biting and merciless. Vincent Harper stood motionless in the oldest part of Oakwood Cemetery, staring at two small figures huddled beside a marble headstone. His headstone, his wife's grave. The taller girl was speaking in a whisper so soft it barely reached him through the November wind. "Mama said she'd watch over us from here, she promised." Vincent's chest tight, his hands, still clutching white roses, began to tremble. He had come here every week for 3 years, and never once had he seen anyone else visit Catherine's grave. Never. The smaller girl looked up at her sister, her bottom lip quivering. "But Ella, Mama's getting sicker. What if she can't come back?" Vincent's breath caught. He took a step forward, his expensive leather shoes crunching against the gravel path. Both girls whipped around, their identical faces painted with fear. They couldn't have been older than 7. Thin, too thin. Their clothes were layered but worn, patched in places, too big in others. Their dark hair hung in tangled waves past their shoulders, but it was their eyes that stopped him cold. Deep brown eyes, the same shade as Catherine's. "I'm sorry," the older one said quickly, grabbing her sister's hand. "We didn't mean to bother anyone, we were just leaving." "Wait," Vincent said, his voice rougher than he intended. He cleared his throat and tried again, softer this time. "It's all right, you're not bothering me, I come here to visit someone." The smaller girl tilted her head. "The pretty lady?" Vincent blinked. "What?" "The lady in the ground," she continued, pointing at the headstone. "Mama said she was the prettiest, kindest lady in the whole world. She said this lady saved us." Vincent's world tilted. He looked down at the engraving on the stone. Catherine Marie Harper, beloved wife, a heart that loved without limit. 1985 to 2021. "Your mother knew my wife?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. The older girl, Ella, nodded slowly. "Yes, sir. Mama met Miss Catherine at the hospital 3 years ago. Miss Catherine helped us when nobody else would. She gave Mama money for food and helped us find a place to sleep when we had nowhere to go." Vincent felt like someone had punched him in the stomach. Catherine had volunteered at St. Mary's Hospital twice a week, reading to patients and bringing comfort to the sick. She'd never mentioned helping a family, never said a word about children. "Where is your mother now?" he asked. Ella's face crumpled, but she fought to stay strong. "She's really sick. She's been at St. Mary's for 2 weeks. The doctors say her kidneys are failing. They say she doesn't have much time left." The smaller girl started crying. "I want Mama. I'm scared, Ella." Ella pulled her sister close, stroking her hair. "It's okay, Lily. Remember what Mama said. Miss Catherine promised she'd take care of us if anything happened. That's why we came here, to ask her to keep her promise." Vincent's throat closed up entirely. He couldn't speak, couldn't move. 3 years. Catherine had been gone for 3 years, and somehow her kindness was still echoing through the lives of others. "What are your names?" he finally managed to ask. "I'm Ella Bennett," the older girl said. "And this is my twin sister Lily. We're 6 years old. Well, almost 7. Our birthday is in 2 weeks. And your mother, what's her name?" "Angela Bennett," Ella said. "She used to work at a diner downtown, but she got too sick to keep working. We've been staying at different shelters, but sometimes they're full. Last week we had to sleep in a park." Vincent felt rage and sorrow collide in his chest. 2 little girls, 6 years old, sleeping in parks in November. "Have you eaten today?" he asked. Both girls shook their heads. Vincent made a decision. He didn't think about it, didn't calculate the risks or complications. He simply knew what Catherine would have wanted. "Come with me," he said, extending his hand. "I'll take you somewhere warm. We'll get you some food." Ella hesitated, her protective instincts kicking in. "Mama said never to go with strangers." "Your mother is very smart," Vincent said gently. "But I'm not a stranger. I was married to Miss Catherine. And if she promised to look after you, then I'm going to keep that promise for her. I'm going to help you. I promise I won't hurt you." Lily looked up at her sister. "He has kind eyes, Ella, like Mama." Ella studied Vincent for a long moment, then slowly nodded. "Okay, but only because Miss Catherine trusted you." Vincent led them to his car, a sleek black sedan parked along the cemetery's main road. He opened the back door and helped them inside, making sure their seatbelts were fastened. As he slid into the driver's seat, he caught sight of them in the rearview mirror. 2 tiny girls in a luxury car worth more than most people made in a year. They looked so small, so fragile, so impossibly brave. He drove to a family restaurant on the edge of town, a warm place with red booths and the smell of fresh bread. When they walked in, the hostess gave Vincent's tailored suit a curious look, then glanced at the 2 dirty children holding his hands. He didn't care what anyone thought. He found a corner booth and ordered everything. Pancakes, eggs, bacon, toast, orange juice, hot chocolate. The girls ate like they hadn't seen food in days because they probably hadn't. As they ate, Vincent asked gentle questions. He learned that Angela had been raising the twins alone since they were babies. Their father had left before they were born. Angela had worked 3 jobs to keep them fed, but when she got sick, everything fell apart. They'd lost their apartment 6 months ago. Since then, they'd been moving between shelters, churches, and occasionally the streets. "Miss Catherine used to bring us food," Ella said between bites of pancakes. "She'd meet us at the park with sandwiches and fruit. Sometimes she'd bring us books. She taught me how to read." "She was teaching me too," Lily added. "She said reading was like magic. It could take you anywhere." Vincent's eyes burned. Catherine had always wanted children. They'd tried for years, but it never happened. Doctors said it was unlikely they ever would. Catherine had cried herself to sleep more times than he could count. And then she'd gotten sick. Cancer, aggressive and merciless. She'd fought for 18 months before it took her. He'd never known she'd found children to love in her final years. Never known she'd been pouring her unfulfilled dreams of motherhood into 2 little girls who desperately needed her. "I want to see your mother," Vincent said suddenly. Both girls looked up. "You do?" Ella asked. "Yes." I want to talk to her, I want to understand what Catherine promised her, and I want to help. But Mama's very sick, Lily said softly. She doesn't wake up very much anymore. Vincent reached across the table and took both their small hands in his. Then I need to see her soon, will you take me to her? They nodded. An hour later, Vincent walked through the sterile white halls of St. Mary's Hospital with Ella and Lily on either side of him. Nurses gave them strange looks, but no one stopped them. They reached room 412. Ella pushed the door open slowly. The woman in the bed was heartbreakingly thin. Her skin had a grayish tint and machines beeped steadily beside her. But when she saw her daughters, her eyes lit up with a love so fierce it made Vincent's chest ache. My bobbies, Angela whispered, you're back. Mama. Both girls rushed to her side, careful not to jostle the tubes and wires. Angela kissed their heads, tears streaming down her face. I was so worried, where have you been? We went to see Miss Catherine, Ella said. We asked her to help us like she promised. Angela's gaze shifted to Vincent and her eyes widened with recognition. You're Catherine's husband, I saw your picture, she showed me once, she said you were the love of her life. Vincent stepped closer to the bed. Angela Bennett, she nodded weakly. I'm so sorry, I never meant for my girls to bother you. I told them Catherine would watch over them, but I didn't mean. Stop, Vincent said gently. You have nothing to apologize for. I came here because I need to understand. Catherine never told me about you or the girls. I need to know what she promised you. Angela's breath rattled. She looked at her daughters and fresh tears fell. About 4 months before she passed, Catherine found us sleeping behind the hospital. It was raining. We had nowhere to go. She brought us inside, got us warm, fed us. She started helping us regularly after that. Money, food, clothes for the girls. She paused, struggling for air. One day, she told me she was dying. She said she didn't have long. I'll never forget what she said next. She looked at Ella and Lily and said, if anything happens to you, Angela, I promise these girls won't be alone. I'll make sure they're protected. I'll watch over them even from heaven. Vincent's vision blurred. 3 weeks before she died, Catherine came to see me one last time. She made me promise that if I ever got too sick to care for the girls, I would take them to her grave. She said someone would find them there. Someone who would keep her promise. Angela's hand trembled as she reached for Vincent's. She meant you, she knew you would come, she knew you would save them. Vincent couldn't hold back the tears anymore. They fell freely, hot and heavy. Catherine had orchestrated this. Even in death, she was still loving, still giving, still saving. The doctors say I have maybe a week, Angela whispered. Maybe less. I have no family, no one to take the girls. The state will put them in foster care. They'll be separated. Please, her voice broke. Please don't let them be separated. They're all each other has, please. Vincent looked down at Ella and Lily. They were clinging to their mother, sobbing quietly. 2 little girls about to lose everything. 2 little girls his wife had loved. 2 little girls who had her eyes. They won't be separated, Vincent heard himself say. I'll take them. I'll keep Catherine's promise. I'll protect them. Angela's face crumpled with relief. Thank you, oh God, thank you. She pulled her daughters close one more time. You're going to be okay, my loves. Mr. Harper is going to take care of you. You're going to have a good life. You're going to be safe. But Mama, Lily sobbed, we don't want to leave you. I know, baby, I know, but I'll always be with you right here. She touched their chests over their hearts, right here forever. Vincent stepped back, giving them privacy for their goodbye. He pulled out his phone and made a call to his lawyer. Daniel, I need you to draw up emergency guardianship papers. Tonight, I'll explain later, but I need them ready by morning. When he hung up, a nurse approached him in the hallway. Are you family? She asked. I'm about to be, Vincent said. Over the next 6 days, Vincent barely left the hospital. He sat with Angela, listening to her tell stories about the girls, their first words, their first steps, how Ella always protected Lily, how Lily could make anyone smile, how they loved drawing and singing and dancing in the rain. He learned that Angela had been a good mother, a devoted mother. She'd sacrificed everything for her daughters. She'd loved them with a ferocity that humbled him. On the 7th day, with Ella and Lily sleeping in chairs beside her bed and Vincent keeping watch by the window, Angela Bennett took her last breath. Vincent called the nurses. He held the girls as they woke and realized their mother was gone. He let them scream and cry and rage against the unfairness of it all. And when they finally exhausted themselves, he carried them to his car and took them home. His home, their home now. The house was massive, 8 bedrooms, a pool, a library, a home theater. Catherine had decorated it with love, but it had felt like a mausoleum since she died. Now as he carried 2 sleeping girls up the grand staircase to the guest rooms he'd hastily prepared, it felt like something else. It felt like it was waking up. He tucked them into beds with fresh sheets and soft blankets. He left nightlights on in case they woke up scared. And then he went downstairs to his study and collapsed into his leather chair. What had he just done? He was 42 years old. He'd never been a father. He ran a multinational corporation. He traveled constantly. He had no idea how to raise children, let alone 2 traumatized 6-year-old girls who'd just lost everything. But Catherine had known. Catherine had believed in him. She'd set this in motion 3 years ago, trusting that when the time came, he would do the right thing. His phone buzzed, a text from his assistant. Mr. Harper, the board meeting has been rescheduled to Monday. They need you there. It's urgent. Vincent stared at the message for a long time. Then he typed back, cancel all my meetings for the next month. Family emergency. He hit send and turned off his phone. At 3 in the morning, he heard footsteps on the stairs, small, hesitant footsteps. He found Lily standing in the hallway clutching a worn stuffed rabbit. I had a bad dream, she whispered. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to wake you. Vincent knelt down to her level. You didn't wake me, I couldn't sleep either. Would you like some warm milk? She nodded. In the kitchen, Vincent heated milk in a pan, something he hadn't done since Catherine got sick and craved it in the middle of the night. He poured it into a mug and handed it to Lily. She climbed onto a bar stool and sipped it slowly. Mr. Harper, she said after a while. Yes. Are you going to send us away? His heart shattered. No, sweetheart, never. This is your home now, for as long as you want it to be. What if we're too much trouble? You're not trouble, you're a blessing. She looked at him with those Catherine eyes. Miss Catherine said you were sad. She said you missed her every day. Are you still sad? Vincent's throat tightened. Yes, I miss her very much, but having you and Ella here, it helps. It makes the sadness a little lighter. Lily reached out and patted his hand. It's okay to be sad. Ella and I are sad too. But Mama said it's okay to be sad and happy at the same time. She said people are big enough for both. Vincent pulled her into a hug and she didn't resist. She melted into him, this tiny girl who'd been through so much. Your mama was very wise, he whispered. And so was Miss Catherine, they both loved you so much. Do you think you could love us too? Lily asked. Vincent pulled back and looked into her eyes. I think I already do. A sound from the doorway made them both turn. Ella stood there watching them with cautious hope in her face. There's enough warm milk for you too, Vincent said softly. Ella walked over slowly and climbed onto the bar stool next to her sister. Vincent poured her a mug. They sat in silence for a while, three broken people finding comfort in the quiet kitchen. What happens now? Ella finally asked. Now, Vincent said, we figure this out together. I won't pretend I know what I'm doing. I've never been a father before, but I promise I'll do my best. I'll keep you safe, I'll make sure you're fed and warm and educated, and I'll never ever let anyone separate you. Your sisters, you stay together. What about your job? Ella asked. Don't you have to work? My job will wait. You two are more important. Mama used to say that too, Lily said sadly. But then she had to work all the time to keep us fed. Vincent took both their hands. I have enough money that I don't have to work all the time. I can afford to take time off. I can afford to be here with you. And when I do have to work, we'll figure it out together. Maybe you'll come to the office with me sometimes. Maybe I'll hire someone trustworthy to help, but you'll never be alone, that's my promise. Ella studied him for a long moment, then she did something that broke and healed him all at once. She smiled. It was small, fragile, but real. Okay, she said. We'll try for Mama and for Miss Catherine. They finished their milk and Vincent walked them back upstairs. This time he tucked them both into Ella's bed together the way they were clearly used to sleeping. Mr. Harper, Ella said as he turned to leave. Yes, thank you for not being scared of us. Vincent's eyes burned. I could never be scared of you. You're the bravest people I've ever met. He turned off the light and started to close the door. Mr. Harper, Lily's voice came through the darkness. Yes, can we call you something else? Mr. Harper feels weird. Vincent's breath caught. What would you like to call me? There was a pause. Then Ella's voice, soft and tentative. Would it be okay if we called you Vincent, at least for now? That would be perfect, he said. Good night, Vincent, they said together. Good night, girls. He closed the door and leaned against the hallway wall, his whole body shaking. In 1 week, his entire life had changed. He'd gone from a lonely widower living in an empty mansion to a guardian of 2 little girls who needed everything he had to give. It was terrifying, it was overwhelming. But as he walked back to his study and saw Catherine's picture on his desk, he could swear she was smiling. She'd known. Somehow she'd known this would heal them all. Outside, the first snow of the season began to fall, soft and silent. Inside, Vincent sat in the darkness and made a new promise. To Catherine, to Angela, to Ella and Lily, to himself, he would not fail them. Whatever it took, he would give these girls the life they deserved. But as the clock struck 4 in the morning and exhaustion finally pulled him towards sleep, Vincent had no idea that keeping that promise would be far more complicated than he ever imagined. Because tomorrow morning, someone would knock on his door, someone from his past, someone who would threaten everything he was trying to build, and the secrets would begin to unravel. Vincent woke to the sound of shattering glass. He bolted upright, his heart hammering against his ribs. The clock on his nightstand read 7:15. He'd only been asleep for 3 hours. Another crash echoed through the house, followed by raised voices. Vincent threw on his robe and ran toward the noise. It was coming from downstairs near the front entrance. As he rounded the corner of the grand staircase, he saw them. Ella and Lily stood pressed against the wall of the foyer, their faces pale with terror. And in the center of the marble entryway stood a woman Vincent hadn't seen in over a decade. Diane Harper, his sister. Where are they? Diane demanded, her voice sharp enough to cut steel. She wore a designer pantsuit and her blonde hair was pulled back so tightly it looked painful. Her eyes, cold and calculating, swept the foyer until they landed on the girls. There, I knew it. Vincent, what in God's name have you done? Vincent stepped between Diane and the girls, his body forming a shield. How did you get in here? I still have a key from when Catherine was sick. Remember, when I actually cared about this family? Diane's lips twisted into something that might have been a smile but looked more like a snarl. I got a very interesting call last night from Daniel, your lawyer. Apparently you've lost your mind and decided to adopt 2 random children off the street. Daniel had no right to tell you anything, Vincent said, his voice dangerously quiet. Daniel is worried about you, as am I, as the entire board will be when they find out. Diane took a step closer, lowering her voice. Vincent, think about what you're doing. You can't just take in strays because you're lonely. These children have a history, a background. Do you even know where they came from, who their people are? Their people are dead, Vincent said flatly. Their mother died 6 days ago. They have no one. Exactly my point. They're damaged goods, traumatized. They'll need therapy, special education, constant supervision. You're a businessman, not a social worker. You have responsibilities. The company needs you. The shareholders need you. Vincent felt rage bubbling in his chest, hot and toxic. The company can survive without me for a few weeks. A few weeks? Diane laughed, but there was no humor in it. Vincent, raising children isn't a hobby you pick up for a few weeks. It's a lifetime commitment. And these aren't just any children. They're poor. They've been living in shelters. God knows what diseases they might carry, what trauma they've experienced. Behind Vincent, he heard a small gasp. Lily, his protective instincts roared to life. Get out, he said. Diane blinked. What? I said get out of my house, now, and leave your key on the table. Vincent, don't be ridiculous. I'm trying to help you. No, you're trying to control me the way you've always tried to control everyone around you. But I'm not Dad, Diane. I don't answer to you. I don't need your approval. And I sure as hell don't need your opinions on how I live my life. Diane's face flushed red. Dad would be ashamed of you, throwing away your legacy for two little nobodies. Dad was a cruel, heartless man who died alone because he pushed away everyone who ever loved him, Vincent shot back. If I'm throwing away his legacy, good, I never wanted it anyway. Catherine taught me that there are more important things than money and power. She taught me about compassion, about love, about seeing people as human beings instead of assets or liabilities. Catherine is dead, Diane said coldly. But her love isn't, and I'm not going to let you or anyone else dishonor her memory by treating these girls like they're worthless. They're staying, end of discussion. Diane stared at him for a long moment, her jaw clenched so tight Vincent could see the muscles jumping. Then she reached into her purse and pulled out a folder. Fine, she said, dropping it on the entrance table with a slap. But don't say I didn't warn you. That's a background check on Angela Bennett. I had my investigator pull it last night after Daniel called. You might want to read it before you make any more impulsive decisions. She dropped her key next to the folder and strode toward the door, but she paused at the threshold and looked back at the girls. I hope you're worth it, she said to them, for his sake. Then she was gone, the door slamming behind her with enough force to rattle the chandelier. Vincent stood frozen, his hands shaking with adrenaline. Then he felt small fingers slip into his. He looked down to find Ella on one side, Lily on the other. We're sorry, Ella whispered. We didn't mean to cause trouble. Vincent knelt down and pulled them both into his arms. You didn't cause anything, that was not your fault. My sister is, she's complicated, she doesn't understand what matters in life, but I do, and you matter, both of you. She said we were nobodies, Lily said, her voice wobbling. She said we might have diseases. She's wrong, you're not nobodies, you're Ella and Lily Bennett, you're smart and brave and kind, you're the daughters of a woman who loved you more than life itself. And you're under my protection now. Anyone who wants to hurt you will have to go through me first. They held onto him tightly, and Vincent made a mental note to fire Daniel first thing Monday morning. But later, right now, breakfast was more important. He took the girls to the kitchen and made pancakes from scratch, something Catherine had taught him years ago. As they ate, he tried to keep the conversation light, asking about their favorite colors and animals and foods. But his eyes kept drifting to the folder Diane had left. After breakfast, once the girls were settled in the library with a stack of picture books, Vincent finally opened it. The first page was a photocopy of Angela Bennett's driver's license. She'd been pretty once, with dark hair and warm eyes. The second page was her employment history, multiple jobs, none lasting more than a year or two, waitress, retail clerk, house cleaner. The third page made Vincent's blood run cold. Criminal record: Angela Bennett, arrested 4 years ago, charge theft. His hands trembled as he read the details. Angela had been working at a grocery store and had been caught stealing food. Baby formula, diapers, bread. She'd been sentenced to 6 months probation and community service. Vincent set down the paper and rubbed his eyes. She'd been stealing to feed her children. 4 years ago, the twins would have been 2 years old. Bobby's. Angela had been desperate and alone, and she'd done what she had to do to keep her daughters alive. The next pages detailed her eviction history: 3 different apartments over 5 years, always behind on rent, always scrambling, always just barely surviving. The final page was a handwritten note from Diane's investigator. Subject appears to have no criminal history beyond the single theft charge, no drug use detected, no child welfare reports filed. By all accounts, she was devoted to her children despite financial hardship. However, family medical history is concerning. Subject's mother died of kidney disease at age 35. Subject's grandmother also died of kidney failure, genetic component likely. Vincent closed the folder and leaned back in his chair. Angela had known. She'd known she was dying the same way her mother and grandmother had died. She'd known she was running out of time. And she'd met Catherine at exactly the right moment. Or maybe Catherine had found Angela at exactly the right moment. Either way, it was clear that Angela Bennett had been a good mother doing her best in impossible circumstances, and Diane's attempt to smear her memory had failed spectacularly. Vincent was about to throw the folder in the trash when his phone rang. Unknown number. Hello. Mr. Harper, this is Susan Chen from the Department of Child Services. I'm calling regarding Ella and Lily Bennett. Vincent's stomach dropped. How did you get this number? We received an anonymous tip this morning that you've taken custody of 2 minor children without proper legal authorization. I need to verify some information with you. Vincent closed his eyes. Diane, of course. The girls' mother, Angela Bennett, died 6 days ago. She verbally entrusted them to my care before her death. My lawyer is drawing up the proper guardianship paperwork. I see. And what was your relationship to Ms. Bennett? She was helped by my late wife 3 years ago. My wife made a promise to care for the children if anything happened to their mother. I'm honoring that promise. There was a pause. Mr. Harper, I appreciate your good intentions, but this situation requires immediate attention. The girls need to be placed in temporary foster care while we sort out the legal details. It's standard procedure. No. The word came out harder than Vincent intended. I'm sorry, but no, these girls have just lost their mother. They're traumatized. They're grieving. I'm not going to let strangers take them away to some facility where they might be separated. Mr. Harper, I understand your concern, but do you have any complaints about their current care? Any evidence that they're in danger? Well, no, but then they're staying with me until the legal paperwork is complete. My lawyer will have everything filed by tomorrow. If you need to do a home visit, fine, send someone, but the girls are not leaving. Another pause, then Susan Chen sighed. I'll need to come by this afternoon, 2 o'clock. If the living conditions are acceptable and the children appear safe and well cared for, I can grant a temporary emergency placement while the guardianship process moves forward. But Mr. Harper, if anything seems off, I will remove those children. Is that clear? Crystal clear. We'll be here at 2. Vincent hung up and immediately called his lawyer. Daniel's secretary put him through right away. Vincent, I can explain. You told my sister. You violated attorney-client privilege and you told Diane about the girls. She called me late last night, Daniel said, his voice strained. She was worried about you. She said you haven't been yourself since Catherine died. I thought. You thought wrong. You're fired. I'll have my new lawyer contact you about transferring my files. Don't call me again. Vincent hung up before Daniel could respond. Then he dialed another number. His old college roommate Marcus, no, not Marcus, he couldn't use that name, his old college roommate Patrick Chen. Patrick was a family law attorney now, one of the best in the state. Patrick, it's Vincent Harper. I need your help and I need it fast. 3 hours later, Patrick arrived at the house with a briefcase full of documents. He was a short man with glasses and an easy smile, but his eyes were sharp as knives. All right, Vincent, tell me everything, and I mean everything. Vincent told him about Catherine, about the promise, about finding the girls at the cemetery, about Angela's death and his decision to take them in, about Diane's interference and the call from Child Services. Patrick listened without interrupting, taking notes on a legal pad. When Vincent finished, Patrick leaned back and whistled. You've created quite a situation for yourself, but I think we can make this work. The key is proving that Angela Bennett intended for you to be the girl's guardian. Do you have anything in writing? Vincent's heart sank. No, it was all verbal, but the nurses at the hospital heard her. She told me directly that she wanted me to take the girls. Good, we'll need sworn statements from those nurses. I'll send someone to collect them today. We'll also need character references for you, people who can testify that you're fit to be a guardian. I can do that. And the home visit at 2, that's actually good news. If Child Services approves the placement today, it strengthens our case. But Vincent, you need to be prepared for what comes next. Diane isn't going to let this go. She's going to fight you, and she has resources. So do I. Patrick smiled. Yes, you do. All right, let's get to work. We have 2 hours to prep. At exactly 2 o'clock, the doorbell rang. Vincent opened it to find a tired-looking woman in her 50s holding a clipboard. Susan Chen. She had kind eyes but a no-nonsense demeanor. Mr. Harper, may I come in? Of course. Vincent led her to the living room where Ella and Lily were sitting on the couch, clean and dressed in new clothes Patrick had sent someone to buy that morning. They looked nervous but healthy. Susan sat down across from them and smiled gently. Hello, girls. My name is Susan. I'm a social worker. I just want to make sure you're doing okay. Can I ask you a few questions? Ella nodded, her hand gripping Lily's tightly. How do you like living here? It's nice, Ella said carefully. Vincent is kind to us. He gave us our own rooms and lots of food. He doesn't yell. That's good to hear. Do you feel safe here? Both girls nodded. Lily, can you tell me what you did this morning? Lily looked at Ella, then back at Susan. We had pancakes, then Vincent read us a story, then we drew pictures. I drew a butterfly. That sounds lovely. May I see your room? The girls led Susan upstairs. Vincent followed at a distance, his heart pounding. He watched as Susan inspected the bedrooms, noting the fresh linens, the toys Patrick had ordered, the books on the shelves. She checked the bathrooms, the kitchen, the safety features throughout the house. Finally, she came back downstairs and gestured for Vincent to join her in the foyer. Mr. Harper, I'll be honest, when I got the call this morning, I expected to find a chaotic situation, but this is impressive. The girls are clean, fed, and clearly comfortable. The house is safe and well-maintained. You've gone to considerable effort in a very short time. Vincent exhaled. I want what's best for them. I can see that. However, there are still concerns. You're a single man with no parenting experience. You run a major corporation. How do you plan to balance your work responsibilities with raising 2 young children? I'm taking a leave of absence from the company, as long as necessary. My assistant is capable of handling day-to-day operations. The girls need stability right now, and I intend to provide it. Susan made a note on her clipboard. And long-term, have you thought about school, medical care, therapy? These children have experienced significant trauma. They'll need professional support. I've already contacted a child psychologist, Dr. Sarah Mitchell. She specializes in childhood grief and trauma. She's agreed to start seeing the girls twice a week. As for school, I'll enroll them in Oakwood Elementary as soon as the guardianship is finalized. It's a good school, small class sizes, strong support services, and medical care is covered. I've added them to my insurance. Susan raised her eyebrows. You've been busy. I made a promise. I intend to keep it. She studied him for a long moment. Mr. Harper, I'm going to approve the temporary placement, but understand that this is contingent on the legal guardianship going through smoothly. If there are any complications, any concerns, I'll be back, and if at any point I feel the children's welfare is at risk, they will be removed. Do you understand? I understand, thank you. Susan nodded and headed toward the door, but she paused and looked back. For what it's worth, Mr. Harper, I think you're doing a good thing. Those girls have been through hell. They deserve someone who cares. Just don't let them down. I won't. After Susan left, Vincent returned to the living room where Ella and Lily were waiting anxiously. Are we staying? Ella asked, her voice small. You're staying, Vincent confirmed. Lily burst into tears of relief and threw herself at Vincent. He caught her and held her close, then opened his arms for Ella, who came more slowly but with just as much need. They stood like that for a long time, 3 people clinging to each other in a world that had tried to tear them apart. That evening, Vincent took the girls to visit Angela's grave. He'd arranged for a proper headstone, simple but elegant. Angela Marie Bennett, beloved mother, gone too soon but never forgotten. The girls laid flowers and spoke softly to their mother, telling her about their new home, about Vincent, about everything that had happened. Vincent stood back, giving them privacy, but he caught fragments of their conversation. "We miss you, Mama, every day. But Vincent is taking care of us, just like you wanted. Miss Catherine was right about him, he has a good heart." As the sun set and painted the sky in shades of orange and pink, Vincent felt a presence beside him. He turned, but no one was there, yet he could swear he felt Catherine's hand in his, could swear he heard her voice on the wind. "Thank you," she seemed to whisper, "thank you for loving them." That night, after the girls were asleep, Vincent sat in his study with a glass of scotch and stared at his phone. He had 17 missed calls from board members, 32 emails marked urgent. His company was in chaos without him. And he didn't care. For the first time in 3 years since Catherine's death, Vincent felt like he had a purpose beyond making money and attending pointless meetings. He had something to live for, someone to protect. But as midnight approached and exhaustion began to pull at him, his phone buzzed with a new message, unknown number. He opened it. The message contained a single photo. It was old, grainy, taken from a distance, but Vincent recognized it immediately. It was Catherine, at the hospital with Angela and the twins from 3 years ago. Below the photo, a message: "She was hiding more than just charity work. If you want to know the truth about your wife's promise, meet me tomorrow, Oakwood Park, 10 a.m. Come alone, tell no one or the girls pay the price." Vincent's blood turned to ice. Someone was watching them, someone knew about Catherine's connection to the girls, and someone was threatening to hurt Ella and Lily if he didn't comply. He stared at the message until his vision blurred, his mind racing through possibilities. Who would do this? What did they want? And what truth could possibly be hidden in Catherine's final acts of kindness? He thought about calling the police, but the message was clear: come alone, tell no one. He thought about ignoring it, but the threat against the girls was too real to dismiss. Finally, he made his decision. He would go, he would face whoever was behind this, and he would protect Ella and Lily at all costs. But as he climbed the stairs to check on the sleeping girls one more time, Vincent had no idea that the meeting tomorrow would shatter everything he thought he knew about his late wife, about the girls, and about the promise that had brought them all together. The truth was more complicated than he ever imagined. And it was about to change everything. Vincent didn't sleep. He spent the entire night packing his study, the threatening message burning in his mind like a brand. At 6 in the morning, he heard footsteps padding down the hallway. He stepped out to find Ella standing there in pajamas that were still too big for her thin frame. "You're up early," she said, studying his face with eyes too wise for a 6-year-old. "Couldn't sleep," Vincent admitted. "How about you?" "I had a dream about Mama." She was smiling. "She said we were safe now." Ella paused, tilting her head. "But you don't look like you feel safe, you look scared." Vincent knelt down to her level. He'd learned quickly that Ella noticed everything. Hiding things from her was pointless. "I'm just worried about some work stuff. Nothing for you to worry about, okay?" Ella reached out and touched his cheek, the gesture so tender it made his throat tight. "Miss Catherine used to say that worrying alone makes problems bigger," she said. "Sharing them makes them smaller." "Your Miss Catherine was a very smart woman." "She was, and she loved you very much. She told Mama that you were the best man she'd ever known. She said if anything ever happened to her, you would do the right thing." Ella's eyes searched his face. "Are you doing the right thing now?" The question hit Vincent like a punch. Was he going to meet some mysterious stranger who was threatening his family without telling anyone, without backup? But what choice did he have? "I'm trying," he said honestly. "Sometimes it's hard to know what the right thing is, but I promise you, Ella, I will always do everything in my power to keep you and Lily safe, always." She hugged him then, her small arms wrapping around his neck. "I know, that's why Mama trusted you, that's why we trust you." By 9:30, Vincent had arranged for his housekeeper, Mrs. Rodriguez, to watch the girls. She was a grandmother of 5 with gentle hands and a warm smile. The girls liked her instantly. "I have a meeting," Vincent told them as he headed for the door. "I'll be back in a few hours. Mrs. Rodriguez is going to make cookies with you." "What kind of meeting?" Lily asked, her face curious. Just boring business stuff, nothing interesting. But as he climbed into his car and headed toward Oakwood Park, Vincent's heart hammered against his ribs. He'd tucked his phone into his pocket, set to record audio. If something happened to him, at least there would be evidence. The park was nearly empty on this cold November morning. A few joggers, an elderly man feeding pigeons. Vincent walked toward the large oak tree near the center where the message had told him to wait. He checked his watch, 9:58. At exactly 10 o'clock, a woman approached. She was in her mid-30s, dressed in jeans and a heavy coat with brown hair pulled into a ponytail. Her face was drawn, tired, and there was something desperate in her eyes. "Mr. Harper," she said quietly. "Who are you? What do you want?" She glanced around nervously, then gestured to a nearby bench. "Can we sit, please? I'm not here to hurt you. I need to tell you the truth about Catherine, about the girls." Vincent's muscles tensed, but he sat. The woman settled beside him, keeping a careful distance. "My name is Rachel Foster. I was a nurse at St. Mary's Hospital. I worked the night shift in the oncology ward. I took care of your wife during her final months." Vincent's breath caught. He remembered Rachel. Catherine had mentioned her often, the kind nurse who sat with her during the long, painful nights. "I remember you," he said. "Catherine spoke highly of you." Rachel's eyes filled with tears. "She was an amazing woman, one of the best people I've ever known, and I'm so sorry for what I have to tell you." "Just say it." Rachel took a shaky breath. 6 months before Catherine died, I was working a double shift. It was 3 in the morning and I went to check on her. She wasn't in her room. I found her in the children's ward, sitting with a little girl who was crying. Catherine was reading to her, holding her hand, making her smile. That little girl was Lily Bennett. Vincent froze. "What?" "Angela Bennett was admitted that night, kidney infection. She was seriously ill. Her daughters had nowhere to go, so the hospital let them stay in a waiting room, but Lily had wandered off and was scared. Catherine found her and spent the entire night with both girls while Angela was treated." Rachel wiped her eyes. After that night, Catherine started coming to the hospital on days she wasn't scheduled for treatment. She'd seek out Angela and the girls. She'd bring them food, clothes, toys. She'd read to them, play with them. She fell in love with those girls, Mr. Harper, completely and utterly in love. Vincent's world was tilting. "Why didn't she tell me?" "Because she knew you were grieving. She knew you were watching her die and she didn't want to add to your pain. But there's more. Something Catherine made me promise never to tell anyone, but now that you have the girls, you need to know." Rachel reached into her coat and pulled out an envelope. Her hands trembled as she handed it to Vincent. 3 weeks before she died, Catherine called me to her room. She was very weak by then. She gave me this and made me swear I would only give it to you if something specific happened, if the girls ever came into your care. She said if that happened, it meant Angela had died and it meant you needed to understand everything. Vincent stared at the envelope. His name was written on it in Catherine's handwriting, his vision blurred. "What's in it?" "I don't know. She sealed it in front of me, but Mr. Harper, before you open it, you need to understand something. Catherine loved you. Everything she did out of love. Please remember that." Vincent's hands shook as he opened the envelope. Inside was a letter written in Catherine's elegant script. He recognized it immediately. She'd written it during her final weeks when her hand could barely hold a pen. He began to read. "My dearest Vincent, if you're reading this, it means I'm gone. It means Angela is gone too. And it means you've found Ella and Lily and taken them into your heart the way I knew you would. You always were the best man I ever knew. I need to tell you something I should have told you when I was alive, but I was afraid. Afraid of hurting you, afraid of what you might think, afraid of so many things. When the doctors told us we could never have children, it broke something in me. I know it broke something in you too. We tried to move forward to accept it, but the longing never went away. And then I got sick and I knew my time was running short. When I met Angela and her daughters, something inside me woke up. I saw in those girls everything we dreamed of. Intelligence, kindness, courage. They were living in impossible circumstances, but they loved each other with a fierceness that took my breath away. I started helping them because it was the right thing to do, but I kept helping them because I needed them as much as they needed me. In my final months, when the pain was unbearable and the fear was crushing, those girls gave me a reason to keep fighting. They gave me joy, they gave me purpose. I made Angela a promise, Vincent. I promised that if anything happened to her, someone would take care of her daughters. I couldn't tell her it would be you because I didn't know if you'd be willing. I didn't know if I had the right to ask that of you. But I knew if the time came, if the girls truly needed help, you would find them. Because that's who you are. You see people in pain and you step forward, you don't turn away. I need you to know something else, my love, something that may be hard to hear. Vincent's hands were shaking so badly, now he could barely read the words. I never told you the full truth about my diagnosis. The cancer was aggressive, yes, but there was a treatment option, an experimental trial. The doctors said it had a 30% chance of giving me 5 more years, maybe 10. I turned it down. Not because I'd given up, but because the treatment was expensive, extraordinarily expensive. Even with our resources, it would have depleted most of our savings, and I realized something. If I spent all that money fighting for a few more years that might not even come, there would be nothing left to help Angela and the girls, nothing left to secure their future. So I made a choice. I chose them. I set up a trust fund, Vincent, $2 million. It's in your name as trustee. The money is designated for Ella and Lily Bennett's care, education, and well-being until they turn 25. I know this might hurt you, I know you might feel betrayed, but please understand, I was dying anyway. The treatment might have bought me time, but it also might have failed and left us with nothing. This way, my death could have meaning. This way, those precious girls could have a chance at the life they deserved. I love you, Vincent. I have always loved you, and I know you will love them too, because you have the biggest heart of anyone I've ever known. Take care of them, love them, give them the childhood we dreamed of giving our own children, and know that wherever I am, I'm watching over all of you with joy in my heart. Forever yours, Catherine. Vincent couldn't see, couldn't breathe. Tears poured down his face as the truth crashed over him like a tidal wave. Catherine had chosen to die, had given up years of her life for 2 children who weren't even hers, had trusted him to carry on her legacy of love. Rachel was crying too. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. I watched her make that decision and I tried to talk her out of it. I told her she should fight, should take the treatment, but she said some things were more important than time. She said love was more important. Vincent wiped his eyes roughly. Why are you telling me this now? Why the threatening message? Rachel's face crumpled. Because I'm being threatened. 2 days ago, someone approached me, a woman. She knew about Catherine's trust fund, she knew about the girls. She said if I didn't get you to meet with me and hand over this letter, she would make sure I lost my nursing license. She had evidence that I'd violated patient confidentiality by helping Catherine set up the trust. She said she'd ruin me. Vincent's blood ran cold. What woman? What did she look like? Blonde, expensive clothes, cold eyes. She said her name was Diane. Of course, Diane. His sister had gone from interference to outright sabotage. She wanted you to have the letter, Vincent asked, confused. Why? She said once you knew the truth, you'd realize the girls were a burden Catherine had placed on you unfairly. She said you'd give them up and return to your normal life. She said you'd thank her for freeing you from an obligation you never truly wanted. Vincent stood abruptly, rage coursing through his veins. She's wrong. Catherine didn't burden me with anything. She gave me a gift. Those girls are the best thing that's happened to me since she died. Rachel stood too, relief washing over her face. I was hoping you'd say that. I told her you weren't the kind of man who'd abandon children, but she insisted. She said blood is thicker than charity. Diane understands nothing about family, nothing about love. Vincent pulled out his phone. I need you to do something for me. I need you to write down everything that happened, every conversation you had with Diane, every threat she made. Can you do that? Rachel nodded. Yes, absolutely. I should have come to you sooner, but I was scared. I have 2 kids of my own. I couldn't risk my job. I understand, but Diane made a mistake threatening you. She just gave us evidence of harassment and possibly extortion. Vincent called Patrick. I need you to meet me at my house in 1 hour and bring whatever legal documentation we need to file a restraining order. After Rachel left with promises to send her written statement by the end of the day, Vincent sat alone on the bench and reread Catherine's letter. This time, the tears that came weren't from grief but from overwhelming love. Catherine had sacrificed her life for those girls, had chosen their future over her own, and she'd trusted him to honor that sacrifice. He would, God help him, he would. Vincent drove home with Catherine's letter tucked safely in his jacket pocket close to his heart. When he walked through the door, he heard laughter, real, genuine laughter. He followed the sound to the kitchen and found Ella and Lily covered in flour, helping Mrs. Rodriguez roll out cookie dough. They looked up when he entered, their faces lighting up with joy. "Vincent, look, we're making stars," Lily held up a cookie cutter proudly. "And hearts," Ella added. "Mrs. Rodriguez said we can make any shapes we want." Vincent felt something break open inside his chest, something warm and bright and terrifyingly wonderful. "They're beautiful," he said, his voice rough with emotion. Lily ran to him, leaving flower footprints across the marble floor. She hugged his legs tightly. "Are you okay? You look sad." He picked her up, not caring about the flour getting on his expensive suit. "I'm not sad, sweetheart, I'm happy, happier than I've been in a long time." "Because of us?" she asked hopefully. "Because of you," he confirmed, kissing her forehead. That afternoon, Patrick arrived with a stack of legal documents. They sat in Vincent's study while the girls napped upstairs, exhausted from their baking adventure. "All right," Patrick said, spreading papers across the desk. "I've got good news and complicated news. The good news is that Catherine's trust fund is ironclad. She set it up legally, properly, with all the right documentation. The money is designated specifically for Ella and Lily Bennett's care. As the trustee, you have full control over how it's used. But it can only be used for their benefit." And the complicated news: Diane is challenging the guardianship. She filed paperwork this morning claiming you're mentally unfit to care for the children due to unresolved grief over Catherine's death. She's arguing that you're making impulsive decisions based on emotional instability rather than rational thinking. Vincent's jaw clenched. "She's claiming I'm crazy." "Essentially, yes. She's also questioning the legitimacy of Angela Bennett's verbal wishes. Without written documentation, she's arguing that you have no legal right to the children and that they should be placed in foster care until proper adoptive parents can be found." Can she win? Patrick leaned back in his chair. "Honestly, it's going to be a fight. Diane has resources and connections, but we have something stronger. We have the truth. We have nurses who can testify to Angela's wishes. We have Susan Chen's approval of the home placement. And now we have Catherine's letter, which clearly establishes her intent and her relationship with the girls." "Use everything," Vincent said. "I don't care what it costs, I'm not losing those girls." "There's one more thing," Patrick said carefully. "I did some digging into why Diane is pushing this so hard. It's not just about control or family legacy. Vincent, she's in financial trouble, serious trouble. Her husband's company is failing. They've leveraged everything and they're about to lose it all." Vincent's blood chilled. "She wants the trust fund." "I think so. If she can prove you're unfit and get the girls placed in foster care, there's a legal loophole she could exploit. As your closest living relative, she could petition to be appointed trustee of Catherine's trust. It's a long shot, but if she's desperate enough, she might try it." $2 million, Vincent said quietly. "She's trying to steal $2 million from orphaned children." "It appears so." Vincent stood and walked to the window. Outside, the first snow was beginning to fall again, soft and silent. He thought about Catherine, about the choice she'd made, about the trust she'd placed in him. "Patrick, I want you to do something for me. I want you to set up a second trust fund. $5 million. Put it in Ella and Lily's names, separate from Catherine's trust. I want it structured so that no one, not even me, can touch it except for their education and care. And I want it done today." Patrick's eyebrows shot up. "Vincent, that's a lot of money. Those girls have lost everything, their mother, their home, their entire world. The least I can do is make sure their future is secure, no matter what happens to me, no matter what Diane tries." "You're a good man, Vincent Harper." "No, I'm just trying to live up to the example my wife set. She gave years of her life for those girls. I can give them financial security." That evening, after dinner and baths and bedtime stories, Vincent tucked Ella and Lily into their beds. They'd started sleeping in separate rooms, a sign that they were beginning to feel safe enough to be apart. But tonight, he found them both in Ella's room again, curled up together. "Can't sleep?" he asked gently. "We were talking about Mama," Ella said. And Miss Catherine, Lily thinks they're together in heaven watching over us. I think she's right, Vincent said, sitting on the edge of the bed. Vincent, Lily asked, are you our family now? The question hung in the air, heavy with meaning. Vincent thought about everything that had happened, about Catherine's sacrifice, about Angela's trust, about two little girls who'd lost everything but were somehow still brave enough to hope. Yes, he said finally, I'm your family now if you'll have me. What does that mean? Ella asked carefully, being family. Vincent considered his words. It means I'll always be here for you. It means I'll protect you and care for you and love you. It means when you're scared, you can come to me. When you're happy, we celebrate together. When you're sad, I'll hold you until the sadness gets smaller. It means you're not alone anymore. You'll never be alone again. Tears slipped down Ella's cheeks. Mama used to say that family isn't just blood, it's who shows up, who stays, who loves you even when it's hard. Your mama was right. Then you're our family, Lily said firmly. Because you showed up, you stayed, and you love us even though we're messy and we have bad dreams and we don't know how to live in a big house. Vincent pulled them both into his arms. You're not messy, you're perfect, and I'm honored to be your family. They held onto him tightly and Vincent felt something shift inside him, something fundamental and permanent. These weren't just children he was helping. They were his daughters, not by blood but by choice, by love, by the kind of commitment that mattered more than any biological connection. Can we call you Dad? Lily asked suddenly, her voice muffled against his chest. Or is that not allowed? Vincent's heart stopped, then started again, beating so hard he thought it might break through his ribs. You can call me whatever feels right to you, he managed to say. What if Dad feels right? Ella asked quietly. Would that be okay? Vincent couldn't speak, could barely breathe. He just nodded, tears streaming down his face. Okay, Lily said, sounding satisfied. Good night, Dad. Good night, Dad, Ella echoed. Good night, my girls, Vincent whispered. My beautiful, brave girls. He stayed with them until they fell asleep, watching their faces relax into peace. Then he went downstairs and stood in front of Catherine's portrait in the hallway. I understand now, he told her. I understand why you did it, why you gave up those years. They're worth it, Catherine, they're worth everything. And I promise you I will love them the way you would have. I will give them the life you dreamed of. They're our daughters now, yours and mine, forever. The house was silent, but Vincent could swear he felt Catherine's approval, could swear he felt her love surrounding them all. He went to his study and pulled out his laptop. He had an email to write to every member of his board of directors, to every shareholder, to everyone who'd been pressuring him to return to work. The email was short and simple. I am taking an indefinite leave of absence to focus on my family. My assistant will handle all operational decisions. I trust you will all understand that some things are more important than business. Thank you for your patience during this time. Vincent Harper. He hit send and closed the laptop. For the first time in 3 years, Vincent Harper felt like he was exactly where he was supposed to be, doing exactly what he was supposed to do. But as he climbed the stairs to check on the girls one more time before bed, his phone buzzed with a new message. From Diane, you just made the biggest mistake of your life. See you in court. Vincent stared at the message for a long moment, then he deleted it and turned off his phone. Let her come, let her try to tear apart this family. She would fail, because Vincent Harper had something Diane would never understand. He had love, he had purpose, and he had 2 little girls who called him Dad. And he would burn the world down before he let anyone take them away. The battle was coming. Vincent could feel it like a storm on the horizon, but he wasn't afraid anymore. He was ready. The courtroom was cold and sterile, all polished wood and fluorescent lights that made everyone look slightly ill. Vincent sat at the defendant's table with Patrick beside him, watching as Diane's lawyer, a sharp-faced man named Gerald Hutchinson, paced before the judge like a predator circling prey. It had been 3 weeks since Diane filed her challenge, 3 weeks of depositions and home visits and psychological evaluations. 3 weeks of watching Ella and Lily try to be brave while strangers asked them invasive questions about their feelings and their past and whether they felt safe with Vincent. 3 weeks of hell. But through it all, the girls had been remarkable. They'd answered every question honestly. They'd told evaluator after evaluator that Vincent made them feel loved and protected, that they wanted to stay with him, that he was their family now. Still, as Vincent watched Judge Patricia Morrison review the case files with an unreadable expression, his heart hammered with fear. One decision, one ruling, that's all it would take to destroy everything. "Mr. Hutchinson," Judge Morrison said, her voice crisp and professional, "you may present your opening statement." Gerald Hutchinson straightened his tie and turned to face the judge. He was in his 60s, with silver hair and a reputation for winning impossible cases through sheer ruthlessness. "Your Honor, this case is about protecting two vulnerable children from a man who, despite his good intentions, is not equipped to provide them with the stable, nurturing environment they desperately need. Vincent Harper is a 42-year-old workaholic billionaire who has never raised children, who has no training in child psychology or trauma recovery, and who made an impulsive decision to take custody of these girls while in the grip of unresolved grief over his late wife's death." Vincent's jaw clenched, but Patrick put a restraining hand on his arm. Mr. Harper's own sister, Ms. Diane Harper Westbrook, has testified that he has been emotionally unstable since his wife's passing, that he's made erratic business decisions, that he's withdrawn from family and friends, and now, in what can only be described as a desperate attempt to fill the void left by his wife, he's taken in two children he barely knows, children who come from a background of poverty, instability, and trauma. Hutchinson paused for effect, letting his words sink in. The children's mother, Angela Bennett, had a criminal record. She was arrested for theft. She raised these girls in homeless shelters and on the streets. While we sympathize with her circumstances, we must ask, what kind of behavioral issues and psychological damage have these children sustained? What kind of specialized care will they need? And is a grieving widower with no parenting experience truly the right person to provide that care? Vincent wanted to stand up and shout that Angela had been a hero, not a criminal, that she'd stolen food to feed her starving children, but Patrick's grip tightened, keeping him in his seat. Furthermore, Hutchinson continued, there is the matter of Catherine Harper's so-called promise. We have no written documentation of this promise. Only the word of a dying woman passed along through her husband, who has every reason to romanticize his late wife's intentions. For all we know, Mrs. Harper's charitable work was simply that, charity, not a binding commitment to raise someone else's children. He turned to look directly at Vincent, his eyes cold and calculating. "Your Honor, my client loves her brother. She wants what's best for him. And she believes, as do we, that the best thing for everyone involved is to place these children in the care of trained professionals who can properly address their needs while Mr. Harper receives the grief counseling he clearly requires. We ask that the court terminate Mr. Harper's guardianship and place Ella and Lily Bennett in foster care, where they can be properly evaluated and eventually placed with a qualified adoptive family." Hutchinson sat down looking satisfied. Diane, seated behind him, nodded approvingly. She wore a black dress suit and pearls, every inch the concerned sister, but when her eyes met Vincent's, he saw no love there, only greed and calculation. Judge Morrison turned to Patrick. "Mr. Chen, your opening statement." Patrick stood slowly, buttoning his jacket. He was half Hutchinson's size and a quarter his age, but when he spoke, his voice carried absolute conviction. "Your Honor, my opponent would have you believe this case is about qualifications and training and checking boxes on some bureaucratic form. But that's not what this case is about. This case is about honoring a promise, about recognizing that love and commitment matter more than resumes and credentials, and about protecting two little girls who have already lost everything from losing the one person who has shown them unconditional love and stability." Patrick walked to the center of the courtroom. "Let's talk about the facts. Vincent Harper didn't seek out these children on a whim. He found them at his late wife's grave, where their dying mother had sent them, trusting in a promise Catherine Harper had made 3 years earlier, a promise witnessed by multiple hospital staff members, including nurse Rachel Foster, whose testimony is in your files." He picked up a document. Angela Bennett's final words to Mr. Harper are documented in hospital records. She explicitly asked him to care for her daughters, to keep them together, to give them the life she couldn't provide. And Mr. Harper, despite having no legal obligation, despite the massive disruption to his life, said yes. He said yes because it was the right thing to do. Patrick's voice grew stronger. "Now let's address Mr. Hutchinson's claims. Is Vincent Harper a workaholic? He was, past tense. Since taking custody of Ella and Lily, he has taken a complete leave of absence from his company. He has devoted every waking hour to their care and well-being. Is he emotionally unstable?" The court-ordered psychological evaluation conducted by Dr. Robert Chang concluded that Mr. Harper shows no signs of mental illness, no signs of impaired judgment, and demonstrates a remarkable capacity for empathy and emotional intelligence. He held up another document. Is he unqualified to raise children? By whose standards? He has hired a child psychologist, Dr. Sarah Mitchell, who meets with the girls twice weekly. He has enrolled them in an excellent school where they're already thriving. He has provided them with medical care, stable housing, nutritious food, and most importantly, love and security. Patrick paused, letting his words resonate. Your Honor, I'd like to call our first witness, Ella Bennett. Vincent's heart lurched. They'd prepared Ella for this possibility, but he'd hoped it wouldn't be necessary. He turned to see a bailiff bring Ella into the courtroom. She wore a simple blue dress that Mrs. Rodriguez had helped her pick out. Her dark hair was brushed and pulled back with a clip. She looked terrifyingly small as she walked to the witness stand. The bailiff helped her up into the chair and adjusted the microphone to her height. Judge Morrison smiled gently at her. Hello, Ella, do you know why you're here today? Ella nodded. Yes, ma'am, to talk about Vincent, about whether we can stay with him. That's right, now I'm going to ask you some questions and I want you to tell me the truth, okay? Even if you think the truth might upset someone, can you do that? Yes, ma'am, Mama always said telling the truth was important, even when it's hard. Your mama was right. Now, Ella, how long have you been living with Mr. Harper? 24 days, Ella said. I've been counting. And how has he treated you during those 24 days? Ella's face softened. He's been really kind. When we first came to his house, we were scared. We'd never seen a place so big, but Vincent showed us around and told us we could pick any rooms we wanted. He said his house was our house now. What kinds of things does Mr. Harper do with you and your sister? He reads us stories every night before bed. He helps us with homework. He took us shopping for clothes and toys, but he let us pick everything ourselves. He doesn't get mad when we make mistakes. Last week, Lily accidentally spilled juice all over his important papers, and he just smiled and said papers could be replaced, but little girls were irreplaceable. Several people in the courtroom shifted, and Vincent saw one of the court reporters wipe her eyes. Ella, do you feel safe with Mr. Harper? Yes, ma'am, very safe, safer than I've felt since Mama got sick. What about your sister, does she feel safe too? Lily loves Vincent, she follows him everywhere. She says he has the same kind eyes as Mama did. Patrick stepped forward. Ella, I need to ask you something difficult. Your mama's friend, the lady who's trying to take you away from Vincent. Objection, Hutchinson interrupted. Counsel is leading the witness. Sustained, Judge Morrison said. Rephrase, Mr. Chen. Ella, there's a lady who thinks you and Lily might be happier living somewhere else. What do you think about that? Ella's face hardened in a way that made her look much older than 6. I think she doesn't know us. I think she doesn't care about us. She came to the house once and said mean things. She called us damaged and said we might have diseases. She made Lily cry. Diane's face flushed red, but she remained silent. If the judge decided you had to leave Vincent's house, how would you feel? Tears welled in Ella's eyes. I would feel like I was losing my family again. First, I lost Papa before we were born, then I lost Mama. Then I lost Miss Catherine even though I never got to really know her. If I lose Vincent too, I don't think I could survive it, and Lily definitely couldn't. She has nightmares about being taken away. She wakes up crying, asking if Vincent is still there. One more question, Ella. When you think about your future, what do you want? Ella looked directly at Vincent, and the love in her eyes made his chest ache. I want to stay with Dad. I want Lily to stay with Dad. I want us to be a family, a real family, the kind that stays together no matter what. Miss Catherine promised Mama we'd be taken care of, and Dad is keeping that promise. Please don't make him break it, please. Her voice cracked on the last word and tears spilled down her cheeks. Judge Morrison handed her a tissue. Thank you, Ella, you've been very brave. You can step down now. Ella climbed down from the witness stand and Vincent met her halfway. He scooped her into his arms and held her while she cried against his shoulder. Patrick gave them a moment before gently guiding them back to their seats. Your Honor, Patrick said, I'd like to call Rachel Foster to the stand. Rachel walked in looking nervous but determined. After she was sworn in, Patrick guided her through her testimony. She described Catherine's relationship with the girls, the hours Catherine spent with them, the love that had blossomed between them. She read portions of Catherine's letter aloud, and by the time she finished, half the courtroom was in tears. "And what was Mrs. Harper's mental state when she made this decision?" Patrick asked. "Was she confused, impaired by medication?" "No," Rachel said firmly. "Catherine was sharp until the very end. She knew exactly what she was doing. She told me once that giving up the treatment was the easiest decision she'd ever made. She said those girls had given her more joy in her final months than she'd felt in years. She said loving them had made her death meaningful." Hutchinson tried to discredit Rachel during cross-examination, suggesting she'd violated patient confidentiality and couldn't be trusted. But Rachel held firm, her testimony unshakable. Next, Patrick called Dr. Sarah Mitchell, the child psychologist who'd been working with Ella and Lily. "Dr. Mitchell, in your professional opinion, how are the girls adjusting to life with Mr. Harper?" Dr. Mitchell, a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and a calm demeanor, smiled. "Remarkably well. When I first met them, they showed classic signs of trauma and grief, nightmares, anxiety, difficulty trusting adults. But over the past 3 weeks, I've seen tremendous progress. They're sleeping better, eating better. They're starting to engage in normal childhood activities like playing and laughing. And most significantly, they've begun to attach to Mr. Harper in a healthy, secure way." What would happen if they were removed from his care now? Dr. Mitchell's expression grew serious. "It would be devastating. These children have experienced profound loss. Their mother, their home, their entire way of life. Vincent Harper represents stability and safety to them. Removing them now would reinforce their belief that adults can't be trusted and that they're not worthy of permanent love. It could cause psychological damage that might take years to repair. And if they were separated from each other? That would be even worse. Ella and Lily are twins. They've relied on each other their entire lives. Separating them would be like tearing away half of their identity. I cannot overstate how harmful that would be." Hutchinson tried to argue that Dr. Mitchell was biased because Vincent was paying her, but she calmly explained that her professional ethics required her to report any concerns about the children's welfare, regardless of who signed her checks. She had no such concerns. The testimony continued through the afternoon. Susan Chen, the social worker, testified that her home visits had shown nothing but positive interactions between Vincent and the girls. Mrs. Rodriguez described how the girls had blossomed under Vincent's care. Even Vincent's assistant testified that his decision to take time off work showed maturity and proper prioritization, not instability. Finally, Judge Morrison called for a recess. "We'll reconvene tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock for closing statements and my ruling. Court is adjourned." That night, Vincent couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. He paced his study while the girls slept upstairs, their peaceful breathing a stark contrast to the chaos in his mind. What if he lost? What if the judge decided Diane was right? What if tomorrow morning someone came to take Ella and Lily away? He pulled out his phone and looked at the photos he'd taken over the past 3 weeks. Ella and Lily making cookies, playing in the snow, reading books in the library, laughing at a silly movie. Their faces had changed so much in such a short time. The fear and sadness had slowly been replaced by hope and joy. He couldn't lose them, he wouldn't. At midnight, he heard footsteps on the stairs. Both girls appeared in his doorway wearing matching pajamas. "Can't sleep?" Vincent asked. They shook their heads and climbed into his lap, something they did now when they needed comfort. Vincent held them close, breathing in the scent of their shampoo, feeling their small hearts beating against his chest. "What happens tomorrow?" Lily asked quietly. Vincent had promised never to lie to them. "Tomorrow, the judge will decide if you can stay with me or if you have to go live somewhere else." "What do you think she'll decide?" Ella asked. "I think she'll make the right choice. I think she'll see that we're a family and that families should stay together." "But what if she doesn't?" Lily's voice was very small. Vincent tightened his hold on them. "Then I'll appeal, I'll fight, I'll do everything in my power to bring you back home, because you are my daughters now, not by blood but by choice, by love, and I will never ever stop fighting for you, do you understand?" Both girls nodded against his chest. "I love you both," Vincent said, the words coming easily now. "More than I thought possible. You've healed something in me that I thought was broken forever. Whatever happens tomorrow, I want you to know that. I want you to know that having you in my life has been the greatest gift I've ever received." "We love you too, Dad," Ella whispered. "So much," Lily added. They fell asleep in his arms, and Vincent carried them upstairs to their beds. He tucked them in and kissed their foreheads, whispering promises he prayed he could keep. The next morning, the courtroom was packed. Word had spread about the case, and reporters lined the back wall. Vincent sat rigidly in his seat, his hands clasped so tightly his knuckles were white. Judge Morrison entered, and everyone stood. When she sat, she looked directly at Vincent for a long moment before speaking. "I've reviewed all the testimony and evidence presented in this case. I've read the psychological evaluations, the home visit reports, and the statements from witnesses. I've considered the arguments made by both sides, and I've prayed for wisdom because this decision will impact 2 young lives in profound ways." Vincent's heart felt like it might explode. Mr. Hutchinson argues that Mr. Harper is unqualified to raise these children, that he acted impulsively, that the children would be better served in foster care. Ms. Harper Westbrook claims to be motivated by concern for her brother and for the children. Judge Morrison paused, and her expression hardened. "However, after careful review, I find Ms. Harper Westbrook's motivations suspect. Evidence has been presented showing that she is in severe financial difficulty, and that she attempted to access Catherine Harper's trust fund through questionable legal means. Furthermore, her treatment of the children during her visit to Mr. Harper's home was, by multiple accounts, cruel and dismissive." Diane's face went pale. "As for Mr. Hutchinson's arguments about qualifications, I find them unpersuasive. There is no law requiring parents to have degrees in child psychology. If there were, most parents in this country would be disqualified. What matters is not credentials but commitment, not training but love, and the evidence clearly shows that Vincent Harper has demonstrated both in abundance." Vincent's vision blurred with tears. Angela Bennett may not have left written documentation of her wishes, but her intent is clear from the testimony of multiple witnesses. She trusted Mr. Harper to care for her daughters. Catherine Harper trusted him, and most importantly, Ella and Lily Bennett trust him. They call him Dad, they feel safe with him, they're thriving under his care. Judge Morrison looked directly at Vincent. "Mr. Harper, I'm granting you permanent legal guardianship of Ella and Lily Bennett. The trust funds established for their care will remain under your trusteeship. You will have full parental rights and responsibilities. The girls will take your surname if they choose to do so." Vincent couldn't breathe, couldn't move. "However," Judge Morrison continued, "I'm ordering continued supervision by Child Services for the next 6 months. Susan Chen will conduct monthly home visits to ensure the children's continued well-being. After that period, if all goes well, the supervision will end and your guardianship will be absolute." She banged her gavel. "Case dismissed. Congratulations, Mr. Harper. Take good care of those girls." The courtroom erupted. Patrick was shaking Vincent's hand. Saying something about a great victory, reporters were shouting questions, but Vincent heard none of it. He only had eyes for the back of the courtroom where a bailiff had just brought in Ella and Lily. He ran to them, dropping to his knees and pulling them into his arms. They were crying, he was crying, everyone was crying. "We get to stay?" Ella asked through her tears. "You get to stay," Vincent confirmed. "Forever, you're mine, I'm yours, we're a family." "Really?" Lily asked. "Really truly forever?" "Really truly forever," Vincent promised. Behind them, Diane stood abruptly and stormed out of the courtroom, Hutchinson following. Vincent didn't spare her a glance. She'd lost, not just the case but any claim to his respect or his time. She'd tried to destroy his family for money and she'd failed. That afternoon, Vincent took the girls to visit Catherine's grave. It was snowing again, soft flakes drifting down from a gray sky. They stood before the headstone, Vincent holding both girls' hands. "We won, Miss Catherine," Ella said softly. "We get to stay with Dad, we're a family now just like you wanted." "Thank you," Lily added. "Thank you for loving us, thank you for finding Dad for us." Vincent knelt between them. "Thank you, Catherine, thank you for trusting me, thank you for giving me this gift. I promise I'll love them the way you would have. I promise I'll give them everything they deserve. I promise I'll make you proud." The wind picked up, swirling snow around them in a gentle dance. And for just a moment, Vincent could swear he felt Catherine's hand on his shoulder, could swear he heard her voice on the wind. "You already have, you already are, I love you, all of you." 3 months later, Vincent stood in his backyard watching Ella and Lily play on the swing set he'd installed. They were laughing, their faces flushed with joy and exertion. In the past few months they'd gained weight, their cheeks had filled out, Their hair had grown longer and shinier, but more than their physical transformation, it was the light in their eyes that took his breath away. The fear was gone, replaced by confidence and happiness. Mrs. Rodriguez appeared at his elbow. "Mr. Harper, there's someone here to see you, a young man. He says his name is Daniel Foster and he's Rachel's son." Vincent frowned but followed her inside. A gangly teenager stood in the foyer, clutching a manila envelope. "Mr. Harper, I'm Daniel. My mom asked me to give this to you. She said you'd want to see it." Vincent opened the envelope. Inside was a photograph, old and slightly faded. It showed Catherine sitting in a hospital room holding two small girls on her lap. She was thin and pale, clearly ill, but her smile was radiant. The girls, Ella and Lily, were looking up at her with pure adoration. On the back, in Catherine's handwriting, "My girls, my greatest joy." Vincent's hands trembled. "Where did your mother get this?" "She took it about 2 months before Mrs. Harper passed away. She said Mrs. Harper asked her to keep it safe and only give it to you when the time was right. Mom said now is the right time." Vincent stared at the photo, his throat tight. Catherine had known. Even then, even in her darkest days, she'd known these girls would become his daughters. She documented it, preserved it, left him proof that this wasn't a mistake or an accident, it was destiny. "Thank your mother for me," Vincent managed to say. After Daniel left, Vincent took the photo to his study and placed it in a frame next to Catherine's portrait. 2 images now, his past and his present, his love and his legacy. That evening, after dinner, Vincent called the girls into the study. "I have something to ask you both," he said, suddenly nervous. "Something important." They climbed onto the couch beside him, their faces curious. "You know how you've been calling me Dad for a while now?" They nodded. "Well, legally, I'm your guardian, but I was thinking, maybe we could make it more official. Maybe we could make you legally my daughters. It's called adoption. It means your last name would change from Bennett to Harper. It means on every document, every form, I'd be listed as your father. You'd be my children in every possible way." He paused, searching their faces. "But here's the important part. Your last name right now is Bennett. That was your mama's name. That's your connection to her. I would never want you to lose that, so I'm asking you to choose. You can keep your mama's name and stay as you are, or you can take my name and become Ella and Lily Harper. There's no wrong answer. I'll love you the same either way, but I want you to decide." Ella and Lily looked at each other, having one of those silent twin conversations. Then Ella turned back to Vincent. "Can we be Ella and Lily Harper Bennett, with both names, so we can keep Mama with us but also be your daughters?" Vincent's vision blurred. "That's perfect, that's absolutely perfect." "Then yes," Lily said, bouncing with excitement. "We want to be adopted. We want to be your daughters forever and ever." "Forever and ever," Ella agreed. 2 months later, Vincent stood in another courtroom, but this time there was no conflict. No lawyers fighting, no threats or accusations, just a simple ceremony with Judge Morrison presiding, making official what had already been true in their hearts. "By the power vested in me by the state, I hereby declare that Ella and Lily Harper Bennett are the legal adopted daughters of Vincent Harper. May you all have a long, happy life together as a family." The gavel came down and Vincent pulled his daughters into his arms. They were crying happy tears. He was crying happy tears. Mrs. Rodriguez, sitting in the gallery, was sobbing openly. That night, they celebrated with a party at home. Patrick came, bringing his own children to play with Ella and Lily. Rachel Foster came with her family. Susan Chen stopped by with a gift. Even some of Vincent's business colleagues appeared, people who'd criticized his decision months ago but now could see the joy it had brought him. As the evening wound down and guests began to leave, Vincent found himself standing in the doorway of the girls' rooms. They'd recently started sleeping separately again, a sign of their growing security. But they'd left their doors open so they could talk to each other across the hall. "Dad," Ella called softly. "Yes, sweetheart. Do you think Mama knows that we're okay now, that we're happy?" Vincent walked into her room and sat on the edge of her bed. "I think she knows. I think she and Catherine are both watching over you, proud of how brave and strong you've been." "I miss her," Ella whispered. "I miss Mama every day, but I'm glad we have you. Is that okay, to miss her but also be happy?" "That's more than okay, that's exactly right. You can love your mama and love me at the same time. Your heart is big enough for both." Across the hall, Lily called out, Dad, will you love us even when we're not little anymore, even when we're teenagers and make mistakes? Vincent smiled. I'll love you when you're teenagers and when you're grown-ups and when you're old ladies with gray hair. I'll love you when you make mistakes and when you make me proud and every moment in between. That's what families do. They love each other no matter what. Promise, both girls said together. I promise, now get some sleep, we have a big day tomorrow. What are we doing tomorrow? Ella asked. Whatever you want, we're a family now, we have all the time in the world. Vincent turned out the lights and went downstairs. He poured himself a small glass of scotch and stood in front of Catherine's portrait with the photograph of her and the girls beside it. We did it, he said quietly. They're safe, they're happy, they're ours. You were right about everything, Catherine. Thank you for trusting me. Thank you for loving them. Thank you for showing me that the best way to honor your memory was to live the way you lived, with an open heart and the courage to love even when it's scary. He raised his glass to her portrait. To you, my love, and to our daughters, thank you for giving me a reason to live again. The house settled into quiet around him. Upstairs, his daughters slept peacefully, secure in the knowledge that they were loved and protected. Outside, snow began to fall again, blanketing the world in white. Vincent Harper had been a lonely, grieving widower 6 months ago, a man going through the motions of life without really living. But 2 small girls kneeling at his wife's grave had changed everything. They'd given him purpose, given him joy, given him a family. He'd lost Catherine, and that pain would never fully disappear. But in losing her, he'd found her final gift to him. 2 beautiful, brave, extraordinary daughters who had taught him that love doesn't end with death. It transforms, it multiplies, it finds new ways to bloom. As Vincent climbed the stairs to bed, he paused at Ella's door. She was sleeping peacefully, her arms wrapped around the stuffed rabbit she'd had since she was a baby. In the other room, Lily slept with a smile on her face, clutching a picture book Catherine had once read to her. His daughters, his family, his second chance at happiness. Vincent silently thanked God, thanked Catherine, thanked Angela, thanked everyone who had played a part in bringing them together. Then he went to his own room and slept peacefully for the first time in 3 years. The next morning, he woke to the sound of laughter. He found Ella and Lily in the kitchen attempting to make breakfast. There was flour everywhere, eggshells on the counter, a suspicious burning smell coming from the oven. But they were laughing, and when they saw him, their faces lit up with pure joy. We're making you breakfast, Dad, Lily announced. It's a surprise. We might have made a little mess, Ella added sheepishly. Vincent surveyed the disaster that had once been his spotless kitchen and smiled. It's perfect, you're perfect, this is perfect. And it was, because this was what family looked like, not perfection, not order, but love and laughter and people who showed up for each other every single day. They ate burnt pancakes and celebrated another morning together, another day of being a family, another gift in a life that had been transformed by 2 homeless girls and a promise made at a grave. Vincent Harper had gone to visit his late wife's grave 6 months ago and found 2 shivering children who needed help. He'd thought he was saving them. But the truth was they'd saved him. And together they'd built something beautiful from the ashes of loss. A family, a home, a future filled with love. Some promises are meant to be kept. Some love is meant to last forever. And some families are built not from blood but from choice, courage, and the kind of love that transcends death itself. Vincent Harper had learned that lesson, and he would spend the rest of his life grateful for it. The end. Life-changing lesson. True family isn't defined by blood or biology, but by the unconditional love, commitment, and sacrifice we offer to one another. Sometimes the greatest gifts come wrapped in the most unexpected packages, and the courage to open our hearts to them can transform not only the lives we touch but our own. Catherine's sacrifice taught us that love never dies. It simply finds new vessels, new hearts, new ways to flourish. Angela's devotion showed us that being a good parent isn't about what you can provide materially, but about the love and values you instill. And Vincent's journey reminds us that healing from loss doesn't mean forgetting those we've lost, but honoring them by living the way they would have wanted, with open hearts, generous spirits, and the courage to love again even when we're afraid. The greatest legacy we can leave isn't measured in money or monuments, but in the lives we touch and the love we share. Every act of kindness ripples forward into eternity, creating connections and possibilities we may never live to see, but that will change the world nonetheless. Subscribe to this channel to support our growth and never miss a story that could change the way you see the world.